Greetings YouTube viewers and welcome to another video on the Ian Bullock channel. It's late September, early October 2022 and I'm recording this video from Gorleston-On-Sea, Great Yarmouth, Norfolk on the east coast of East Anglia here in England, and I'm standing at the minute on the cliff tops at the southern end of the beach looking back towards the main part of Gorleston Beach and onwards across the river towards Great Yarmouth. So I want to talk to you today specifically about these new beach huts which are being developed along the seafront here at Gorleston by Great Yarmouth Borough Council. The plan is to have a total of 70, and on the day that I was filming this video the contractors were down on the seafront building some of the final huts and adding the finishing touches to some others. You'll notice that these huts are all built to quite a specific design, and the colours of the huts come from a palette of colours by the paint company Farrow and Ball. And I think the idea of that is to make sure that the huts have quite a harmonious appearance along the seafront in the conservation area to make sure that they fit in with the coastal landscape. When the Borough Council first introduced these beach huts, I think it's fair to say that the reaction to them was a bit lukewarm, but then a couple of things happened that made people think again. First of all, there was the 2020 COVID-19 coronavirus global pandemic, and I think that made people really re-evaluate the whole idea of spending leisure time more locally and maybe having UK holidays instead of going abroad. Also, I think that once the huts were actually built and people were down there using them and people could see how lovely they were, I think the interest in these huts really started to grow, and they've now become very successful and also very popular. So these colourful and gorgeous Gorleston beach huts are used in several different ways. Some people rent them on a daily or weekly basis for their holidays. Some people have them on an annual rental basis. Some have bought them on either a 10-year lease or a 25-year lease. And some of those new owners have started renting them out as boutique beach huts. I've just brought you a little bit further along the promenade here, down near JJ's at the Beach Cafe. But the area that you're looking at the moment will be the location of the final 12 beach huts for Gorleston, and on the day I took this video you'll see that the contractors had put down the bases ready for huts number 61, 62, 63 and 64. Now Great Yarmouth Borough Council, as far as I know, has given an undertaking that once these 70 huts are completed at Gorleston there won't be any more along here. Instead of which the council is turning its attention to plans to develop 40 similar huts at Great Yarmouth along North Drive near the Venetian waterways. These beach huts have certainly been quite controversial and provoked a lot of discussion since they've been developed over the past 2 or 3 years. Personally, I think they look great. I think they're a lovely addition to the seafront at Gorleston. And I must say, I really like the design that's been chosen for these beach huts. I just think they look so neat and tidy, cool, classy, elegant and uncluttered. And I also think that the paint scheme works really well along the promenade. I don't know about you, but almost every time I've walked along Gorleston seafront, I've seen this sign and thought, as soon as I get home, I'm going to make contact with Great Yarmouth Borough Council and find out how I go about hiring or buying one of these huts, or at least checking out what the waiting list situation is. Of course, by the time I've got home, I've never got around to doing anything about it. But back in August 2022, I decided the time was right to make contact with the council and see how I could move things forward. Within a day or two, I received some very helpful replies from Charles and his colleague Josie at the council. Now, the first thing that became clear was that in terms of the waiting list to rent a beach hut, my name was number 66. Now, bearing in mind there are only 70 beach huts in total at Gorleston, and only a proportion of those are actually available for rental, it was going to take a huge turnaround really for my name to ever come anywhere near the top of the waiting list. So I figured that that idea was never really going to happen. But then I was amazed, absolutely amazed, that the council in fact had 2 beach huts available for purchase on a first-come, first-served basis. I never expected that to happen. Obviously, buying a beach hut at Gorleston is a huge decision and very expensive too, so there was then a lot of thinking about whether or not it was a good idea to go ahead. I genuinely never expected to hear that any of the beach huts at Gorleston were still available for sale, so this really took me by surprise. But then I thought about it and thought, well, if I buy a hut on a 25-year lease, that will take me through to the grand old age of 84, and maybe this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and a chance that shouldn't pass me by. And that was it really. The decision was made and I contacted the council over the August bank holiday weekend saying I'd like to go ahead and buy one of these lovely Gorleston beach huts on a 25-year lease. So viewers, can you guess which one is mine? Well, just along here there's hut 14, the distinctive sherbet lemon striped hut. And next to it we have this handsome bright blue one, which is now the Bullock family beach hut. And my new hut is number, well, as you can see, it's number 13 actually. Now I know exactly what you're going to say, viewers. You're going to say, you've only gone and bought yourself the unluckiest flippin' beach hut in Gorleston. People often say 13 unlucky for some. I say 13 unlucky for none. I'm lucky just being able to own it, to be honest. Indeed, I'm hoping this hut will become a happy haven of sunshine, fresh air and contentment beside the seaside. Well, that's the plan, folks. If nothing else, at least number 13 is memorable. So, this is just a quick sneak peek inside my new hut because the contractors were adding the finishing touches to it on the day I recorded this video. You'll see hut 13 is in this beautiful bright blue, which is called St Giles blue and is one of the permitted Faro and Ball paint colours approved by the council. Now normally when you buy a new beach hut you're allowed to choose your own colour, but because of the timescales this colour had already been chosen for hut 13. And that's lovely actually because it's probably the colour I would have chosen out of all the available shades. So the photographs coming up here were taken a few weeks earlier before huts 9, 12 and 13 were actually constructed. Now if you fancy impressing your friends, family and relations next time you're walking along Gorleston seafront, tell them to run along ahead and meet you at hut 10 or hut 11 and see how things go. Now the reason for this is because there isn't a hut 10 and there isn't a hut 11, nor will there be. Now this I think is something to do with how the beach huts were built in a particular order, and because of spacing and access issues there hasn't been room for those 2 huts, instead of which the Borough Council has built number 71 and 72 on at the far end near JJ's Cafe, and there won't be a hut 10 or 11 in the future. So buying one of these Gorleston beach huts isn't just a case of signing a couple of forms and being handed the keys. This is a proper legal conveyancing process and involves employing the services of a solicitor and signing all the necessary legal documentation. And saying that you're buying a Gorleston beach hut is a slightly misleading thing anyway. What you're actually doing is signing up to a 25-year lease on, I think it's a 3 metres by 3 metres square piece of tarmac on the promenade, and then having the legal right to put a beach hut on it over a 25-year period, as long as you stick to all the rules and regulations and keep your hut neat, tidy and well maintained. Earlier on, I mentioned that there were 2 beach huts still for sale when I first contacted Great Yarmouth Borough Council in August 2022. Hut 13, which I picked because I do love the colour blue, and also Hut 9. Just coming up on this video, here is Hut 9, which was still being put together by the construction guys when I filmed this video back in September. That pretty pastel colour the council chose for Hut 9 is called Cinder Rose Pink, and I think it complements the other huts in the row perfectly. To be honest, whatever their colour, number or position, I really feel that individually and collectively these new huts are all rather fabulous, and they look so elegant and vibrant along the promenade. They bring a tasteful kind of retro charm to the prom, and if anything, they actually enhance the character of the seafront scenery. So Gorleston has started to feature more prominently in the media recently, including nationally, and interest seems to be growing. We all know, of course, that delightful Gorleston is what puts the great into Yarmouth. But maybe more people across the country and beyond are beginning to discover one of Norfolk's best-kept seaside secrets. Let's hope, of course, that too much interest doesn't affect Gorleston's charmingly old-fashioned and unspoilt appeal. Over the years, I certainly haven't agreed with many of the weird and wonderful decisions made by Great Yarmouth Borough Council, but I have to say, and I know a lot of people agree with me, they've done an absolutely cracking job with these new beach huts at Gorleston, and I'm sure the scheme at Great Yarmouth will also be a great success. I also particularly like the way in which these huts have been developed along the southern end of Gorleston seafront, which by and large is a quieter part of the promenade, and also has a very pretty little family beach in front of the huts, which actually on the day I filmed this had all but disappeared because of a very, very high tide. But the beach at this end is certainly smaller, whereas the beach down near the yacht pond end of Gorleston tends to be a little bit more Lawrence of Arabia, with huge sweeping golden sands between the promenade and the actual sea. Buying a new beach hut has certainly been an interesting process, a bit like buying a house, including those dreaded legal fees. Funnily enough, my new Gorleston beach hut has cost more than the first house we ever bought. Then again, that was a Cromer cottage in the mid-1980s when I was 23, and I'm now 59, so I guess times and prices change. That's life, I suppose. Unlike buying a house, however, you can't take out a mortgage for one of these beach huts, and I doubt they'd even qualify for a loan either. As far as I know, buying a Gorleston beach hut is a cash up front job, and you have to show proof of funds to your solicitor and Great Yarmouth Borough Council during the purchasing process. This part of the video was filmed a week or two later, so you can now see that little beach that runs in front of the huts. The tide was a lot lower on this occasion, and also the contractors had finished their work and gone home. So part of the purchase, naturally, is that I've ended up with a brand new hut, Beach Hut 13, which will need to be fitted out, decorated and furnished in the months ahead, and that hut will no doubt last for a good few years. Ultimately, of course, it might need to be replaced, and the cost of providing a new one will be down to me as the hut owner, not Great Yarmouth Borough Council. And in the same way, I will have to cover the cost of regular maintenance and painting at the beach hut. If something breaks, I won't have some nice friendly technician from the council popping down to repair it for me free of charge, unfortunately. I'm also responsible for taking out insurance on my beach hut, which includes buildings and contents cover, as well as public liability insurance. That's going to be a few £100 every year, so it has to be budgeted for. Fortunately, there's a very helpful, friendly and growing Gorleston Beach Hut Owners Association, who can not only advise on all kinds of matters, but can also help to secure discounts on things like hut insurance. Such nice people. Importantly, as a hut owner, I will have to pay ground rent to the Borough Council, which will rise each year by the RPI, Retail Price Index, plus 2%, another ongoing cost to be factored in. I'm really looking forward to using my new Gorleston beach hut through until the age of 84 and even beyond. So viewers, if you're down on Gorleston seafront and passing lucky Hut 13, do come and say hello and have a chat. Thanks so much for watching this video. My very best wishes to YouTube viewers around the world, to the good people of Gorleston, and all the seafront strollers, dog walkers and beach hut users who enjoy the promenade all year round throughout the seasons and whatever the weather. This is Ian Bullock on Gorleston seafront, and it's October 2022.